Got a partner, and your kids did not like your partner.
Bye.
Gone.
Some flaws in the system that I'm perfectly okay with bashing, and I think making everybody aware and giving it a voice, maybe we can turn that tide, because for how many years has the court systems kind of just been like, oh, you're the dad, you're screwed. What doesn't matter.
I don't think that's
how good of a person you are or how good your intentions are. They just go, oh, you're the man in this. You're out.
And I think you're right. There's a flaw with the system, right? They've probably experienced years of shitty dudes coming through. Guys who are
we've met those dudes,
right? Yeah, that don't want to be part of the kids' lives, that don't want to help out financially, that don't want to contribute in any way. They have a drug problem or something like that. The courts probably are flooded with these guys, right?
And the guys running scams and just want to get
over scumbags,
yeah.
And they should be treated like that, right?
Absolutely.
In those kind of cases, we want the parent that's stable,
but we need
to have the kids, and that's it. When they get guys like us who aren't like most people, independent, successful, want to be in the kids' lives every single day, want to make a huge impact and all that kind of stuff, they can't recognize it. So they have us jump through hoop after hoop after hoop, scratching and clawing, trying to prove our way that, hey, we are this guy, that everybody else knows that we're this guy. But the courts don't know it because they've been tarnished with so many bad people coming through.
At this point, it's almost like an online application. The people never even see you.
Yeah,
it's just like check. All right.
Yeah.
Yep, mom gets the kids.
Yeah. When I did my first, it was the first. We had emergency screening. We did emergency screening. The lady, first of all, that interviewed me, I wouldn't even allow her to take my fast food order. Right? I mean, I just would never put anything into this. And this woman, all of a sudden, has power to control my kids. She met with my ex for 3 hours. Met with me for a half an hour. It was already decided, right?
Right.
Asked me hardly any questions that pertained to anything important, and then doubted everything that I had to say when I sat in there and talked to her.
Right.
Right. It was already decided what was going to happen.
And
my voice didn't matter.
And that's the flaw with the system, that when you want your children in your life, you're already starting behind the
behind the feet, behind your ex or behind your or whatever.
And that, I think, is important. That it's kind of, I think, why we're here, because there's a lot of guys like us that feel they have no voice, that they're like, oh, they dread going to court. They dread because they know it's just going to be more heartache.
And there's the thing with the court system, especially now with COVID, they're going to use that as an excuse. Because everything is so pushed back so long, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you go right? I mean, it's so backlogged that you go and you have a meeting, or he says, okay, we're gonna have the visits set up like this, and as long as you check this box, and this box, and you're being a great father and doing all that kind of stuff, we're gonna give you more time, right? But you're waiting 2 to 3 months to go back to see that judge. Well, you've checked all those boxes, but something else pops up, right? Whether it's from the ex or whether it's from whatever, and that court date gets pushed back with no changes. Even though you've done everything you're supposed to do, gets pushed back another 3 months, right? And it's not fair to us. That are checking all these boxes, doing everything we're supposed to, all the visits going awesome, amazing father by every means, and the kids want to be with you and everything else, right? But once again, you have to wait another 3 months. So this has been going on for me for 2 years, right? Where I was with my kids every single day of their life. Now I'm with my kids every other weekend, once a week, getting more and more time. But it's so frustrating with the courts, because the judge could just be like, no, we're going to keep it like this. Well, see you in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Safe.
Right. So what does that do for us, right? We're doing everything we're supposed to be doing, or told we're supposed to be doing, and then there's no reward at the end of it. It's pretty frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, frustrating, discouraging, anything along those lines, but, it's still going to come down to, hey, you got to put your best foot forward.
Always.
For you and for the kids, and keep investing in them and your relationship with them, because either way, that relationship's going to take place, in or outside of the court. right? Whether the court's going to get involved in 3 months or 6 months, it's your relationship with your kid and how you conduct yourself and your perspective and everything like that. And it gives you the opportunity to really build them the trust and the strength there where they see the value, their value, they respect you, and they're essentially an advocate for you. If you're investing, your child's naturally going to gravitate and be an advocate for you, or that's what we're hoping, and that's
the point that you brought up last week is about staying positive. And through all this frustration and anxiety, it's important to stay positive regardless of what's coming at you, to stay positive for your children, with your children, because of your children. Because if you let one of these things trip you up, and then it snowballs and things get bigger and bigger, and before you know it, you're out of control, or you're off track, and you're not thinking about anything, what's good for you, what's good for the kids, what's good for anything. So it's important to always find that, like we talked about last week, that positivity, that ability to stay positive regardless of what you're facing.
And that was something that we were going to talk about today, was perspective.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, these things happen to me instead of the mindset of it happened for me, right? Because now I have an opportunity to be a more involved dad with my kids. Now I have the opportunity to parent the way I want to when they're with me. I have the opportunity to find a whole new level of parenting that I wasn't forced to find, right? So that's an opportunity for me. When I do kind of maybe get down or go down a negative path, just for whatever reason, it could be anything in life.
Bad day at work,
whatever. The quickest way that I find out of that, especially when I'm with my kids, is I put myself in their charge, or I put myself in their service. Because it's hard for me to be angry and or upset or annoyed when I'm focusing on making them happy. My brain can't do both at the same time. And I would venture to say most people cannot do that. Right? So it's like, I embrace them, love on them, ask them, hey man, what do you need from me? And then I put myself in their charge. Right?
When I have my kids, we're busy. I'm totally with them, 100%. I'm focused on them. And I don't have time to be upset, to be depressed, to have anxiety. I don't have any of that time, right? Because you're always doing something for your kids. But you remember the days when, you're in there bathing them, you got bath bombs going on. I'm still at that stage with the two of them that are younger.
And you're right, Chris. It's when you are by yourself, you got to learn to be comfortable with yourself by yourself.
Oh, for sure.
And that's a whole different topic. I mean, that's a dangerous area.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a dangerous area to get used to.
And that's something that we need to cover later.
We can cover that. And when I say dangerous, I mean you can get very comfortable being on your own.
To the point
where you won't let anyone else in.
That's right.
That's pretty much where
I'm at. We can talk about that later.
Yep.
But going back to what you're saying, when you're on your own, I mean, I spend a lot of time listening to like positive mindset podcasts, something like what we're trying to do, or reading like leadership books, even though it's like, oh, this is how you would be a leadership in business or in the corporate world. We're all CEOs and we all own a company. We're dads. We're the CEO of that company.
Right.
And that's the mindset you got to have. A lot of the stuff that you can do in your business world, right, is applicable to running your family.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. And so I'm constantly like trying to bridge the gap of like, okay, how would I use this in my personal life as well as my professional life? And I think when you find that balance, you really find you relax because you're utilizing that skill set, like almost like a reflex. I mean, it just comes naturally. So that's what I personally do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
My current situation, I think I see them 14 days a month. So every moment of every day that I'm with them, I want to suck up that energy. I want to be involved. I want to talk. I want to understand where their minds are at, how they're growing, how they're developing. And and they're at the age where like they're yin and yang. They're oil and water. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what do you want to eat? I want this. Well,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want that. I want this.
Oh, yeah.
So so they're at each other's throats sometime on the video games. I'm like, boys, whoa, we have this much time.
Right? Let's make it positive.
You know, you guys don't have to pretend it's all rainbows and butterflies, but you guys need to value each other. You just don't know when those moments that you're going to have together are going to be. You know, so why not try and make them positive, right?
Yeah.
You are in charge of making it positive, right? You can go down the negative waterfall if you want to, but what good does it do anybody, right? You got to take that step back. You got that mental step back and make everything positive. So it's important that those boys understand that they're brothers, right? They're blood, they're brothers. Nothing should come between them.
Oh no, yeah.
And that bond that they have should be a strong one, a positive one. And I think as dads, that's our job, is to turn them if they want to, like herding cats, right? It's our job to kind of turn them and raise them and get them functioning properly, get them in the right perspective.
So I come from a family of 4 boys, so I understand what the rivalry is and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's understandable. The kids are going to battle it out, and they're going to have arguments and certain things, right? And that's kind of some of the stuff that as siblings brings you a little bit closer together too, right? You have to have
There's nothing wrong with a good, healthy sibling rivalry.
So my perspective moving forward is like, hey, you need to be included. I value our relationship, and that's important to me. And I do want your feedback, and I do want to hear what you want our family to look like moving forward. I also agree with what you're saying. What you're saying is, yeah, you're not going to put your life on hold and be like, hey, I'm not going to go out and meet new people, significant others and stuff. But I think to really sum it up is do your work on yourself first, and then with your kids. Then look at somebody else. Those are the steps. Like, do those steps. And there's no, I can't give you a timeline. I can't go like, hey, 2 months, you're ready to go to stage 2 or stage 3, right? It's emotional pain, and you don't know what your kids are and where they're at or where you're at or your life circumstances. And like we said, it's like, hey, when you're a single dad and or a single mom, your job is to then be both parents. Right? So you don't need to get stuck in the mindset of, I need to hurry up and find a replacement because that's what my kids need. That is probably the worst thing you can fall into. The worst thing you can fall into is to rush into it because you feel like they need to have this other person. You're doing all right, right? Like, work on yourself, work on the relationship with your kids, then figure out what type of partner you want to look for, what qualities you want to look for. And that in and of itself is a whole nother topic of conversation. And,
and without sounding too cliche, you can't love anybody else until you love yourself.
In yourself is knowing what your boundaries are, your limitations, what you're willing to accept, because those are now different. Because, like we said, I think you guys would agree, and anyone out there that listens to this, is when you first get into a relationship, you got to be careful. You're in that limerence, lust, fantasy phase, and you start going past these red, maroon, pink flags, whatever color you want to call them, and things that you are attracted to at first are later going to become annoyances. And you need to be honest with yourself about that, because is that going to be something long term you want to deal with?
Say you had a partner and your kids did not like your partner.
Bye.
Gone. Right? In a heartbeat, right? I mean, because you built that core family, right?
Sure. I think, yes, gone. There's probably another person out there that's more suitable, but it's also important to solicit their feedback. Hey, what is it about that person, right? So is it something that you're just not ready?
Can you fix it?
Could it be anyone? Could it be the perfect person? And you're just, as a child, hey, I'm not ready, right? Okay, then that's something that, it doesn't matter who that person is. They're not ready for that person to be there at that time. And that's something that, like, you as a dad or you as a single mom need to address with your child and say, okay, how do we fix it then? How do we fix it without bringing someone in?
It all comes back communication, right? Communication in any relationship is the most important thing.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's business, your relationship with your partner, or your kids, communication always needs to be there. But there's a lot of parents and a lot of families that have that relationship where their kids don't feel comfortable coming to them and talking to them, right? And I think being a father, that's one of the walls that you definitely need to drop down.
Oh, 100%.
So that your kids can come to you and talk to you about whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And feel
100%.
super comfortable coming to you and talking to you and knowing that dad is going to be there and dad can help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's it's emotional maturity, right? I mean, you got to get past the stereotypes, right? Of, I'm dad. Dad doesn't talk about emotions, or dad doesn't deal with that. No, because to properly grow and evolve, right? You want your children to be able to talk about it. We're not telling them, hey, you got to hang on every emotion. That's okay, but you got to be able to talk about it. And we sit there and we do sit. You just said communication's everything. Always easier said than done.
Facts.
Always easier said than done to be like, I know what I want to say. I know what I feel. The words just don't come out, right? So sometimes it's nonverbal communication. Sometimes you got to write it out and say, hey, here's a letter. Because right now I don't know how to say it to you without getting angry or upset or crying or whatever. So here's some things that I want you to read and I want to talk about. Maybe that's one venue. I don't know. I know for me, I communicate best when I'm outside. So if I'm talking to somebody, like, this is fine with us, but if I'm with a significant other and we're indoors and it's an emotional or heated topic, I feel more relaxed outside. That's just me, right? So you got to learn to put yourself in an environment, in the right situation where you can go, I can perform at my best. I like to be around people that, draw out or kind of feed my strengths, because then it lets me kind of showcase them. But at the same time, I like to be around people that have their strengths or my limitations or my weaknesses, so then I can learn from them and be like, hey man, how do you do that? Because I'm trying to get better, right? And I think that's what you kind of need to look for in your relationship with your kids, or when you do move on to a significant other, or you're deciding to bring someone new into your life. Is you don't want to be with someone that's just like you. That would suck.
Oh, absolutely. I was asked that all the time when I was bodybuilding, right? They're like, don't you want somebody who's in the fitness industry that's, lifting weights and doing all that kind of stuff? And I was absolutely not. That would be a nightmare. I'm going to fight her for the last ounce of chicken in the refrigerator? You, most of the time in relationships, you're looking for somebody, like you said.
The offsets.
I think it's important in anything you do that anybody you allow into your inner circle, not just acquaintances that you meet day to day, but anybody who's in your inner circle, your real circle, adds value to you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I don't think people do that. I don't think people vet their relationships enough.
A lot of people don't.
One of the things that I tell my young boys is that you can have all the friends you want, but vet them a little bit. Be a little discerning about who's your actual friends. Are you going to have this friend? Is he just going to be at school, or is he going to invite? Are you going to invite him to your home? Right? Mm-hmm. Is this a person that you're okay having in your home, around your family, around your brother, around your dog? You know what I mean? So be discerning, and I think that's important. That everybody does that with all their relationships. Is you add value to me, right? And I try to add value to you.
You're trying to get it to be reciprocated, or we're both benefiting from it. Right.
But I don't go into these relationships wanting that,
yeah,
looking
to get something out of you.
It just
kind of evolves and happens. Yeah.
Right.
I think if you surround yourself with quality people, that just naturally happens. It doesn't like, well, this guy can do this for me, and I can get that out of that guy, and
there are those people out there.
Absolutely.
And I would say those are one of the major things you want to look for going into, if you're going to get into a new relationship. You want to avoid that person, man or woman. Again, if you're a single mom, single dad, avoid the person that you are constantly having to give into, or
a taker.
Yeah, like, well, that and that person may not even realize it, right? Because that's just how they were brought up, and that's how they made it to this point in their life, right? They're just constantly needing to fill a void. Well, hey man, you got to have that boundary and that hard line, right? So,